Hello everyone, Kaoz here, and welcome to another old school RuneScape video. And this is a very special one. Today is the last video in the channel. In this format, I have a very special video for you guys coming up on Monday where I'm going to have a little announcement letting you know about a few changes that are going to be happening on this channel, but hopefully you enjoyed today's video as it could potentially be one of the last ones that we will have on Friday, because things around here are going to change for the better and I hope you guys enjoy that, but more about that on Monday. Today, I want to talk about something that that was also inspired by one of the comments I saw in one of my previous videos, and it is why I personally think some content in old school RuneScape cannot be revived, should not be revived, and will not be revived by Jagex, even if the community asks for that. Now, there is a lot of context that I would like to talk about, a lot of examples, but that is exactly what we are going to talk about today. Before we do that, remember that we have a lot of content like this on the channel, so a subscription with notifications on would be greatly appreciated, as well as liking the video for the YouTube algorithm, so I don't, starve to death, and that would be very nice. And finally, go ahead and check out the Discord link in the description to join our nice little server. So, back to reviving content. When I say reviving content, I want you guys to let me know in a comment. Pause the video right now and let me know what you think of when you hear reviving content. In my very personal opinion, one of the most fun pieces of content in RuneScape that actually died and maybe was revived a little while ago was the Berthorpe Games Room. Now, not this place in specific, but basically the activity as a whole, because if you guys remember on a recent update, the games area was actually brought to the Grand Exchange, which is a much more, active place in the game, and honestly, it's, something that brought a lot of joy and a lot of, activity to this nice little thing. But what else can we revive, and how is it that could be revived? Now, it is very important to point out a difference that we have two types of content that is barely touched in old school RuneScape. And this is number one, obsolete content that is, left behind at low levels, and the content that is legitimately dead because the GP per hour, the XP per hour, and overall, it's not as enjoyable as some of the other activities that we have, and in comparison, they are not exactly the best ones to do, right? So, what about obsolete content that's left behind at low levels? So for example, if I tell you guys, I think we should revive the Falador Rooftop Agility course, that is a level 50 agility course, and we should make it the same XP per hour or around the same as Artie and the Seers or even the Fremenic one. If I said that seriously, most of you guys are gonna say that I am pretty crazy. But what about content that's legitimately dead? Now, I'm going to use the same, maybe the same example. And when it comes to agility, I have the one of the examples of dead content that I had in one of my previous video, which is the Werewolf Agility course and the Werewolf Skullball. Now, I know that maybe some people use this because it's a great experience per hour, but honestly, the effort the effort you put into it compared to other things that you can do for agility experience is not the best. And honestly, rooftop agility courses was something that completely killed a lot of agility courses, especially, so for example, there's another one in Dorgeson. I bet you guys you have never done one lap in that place. So we have content in the game that actually killed other pieces of content because it's straight up better, and this is the difference we have to point out. So content that is meant for low levels because, you are never going to touch that once you are past the level required and you can do something else. And content that is legitimately dead because at that level, or even lower, there are better things for you to do, and that is what we are going to talk about today. Now, in terms of reviving content, we could do one of three things. Number one, we could rework content, and this rework could potentially be towards the rewards and basically giving you an incentive to do something that you would not have done otherwise. Number 2, we have buffing old content, and that is straight up buff to experience or GP per hour, just so you can think that your time in the game is actually being valued, or whatever you want to do with your with your training or GP money making methods. And finally, we have nerfing other pieces of content to bring them up to line to things that have been in the past, or maybe things in the future. And this is not very common, but I have 2 examples here that I want to talk about. So let's go ahead and analyze all of these 3. Now, when it comes to reworking content, I can think of 2 examples. If you guys remember the fishing trawler, this was a 10-minute minigame where you have a 1 out of 8 chance to get one of the 4 pieces of the angler's outfit. Now, this year, actually, I believe it was around May, the fishing trawler was actually buffed in the way that now the games are 5 minutes long, but sorry about that one. The games are 5 minutes long, but actually you have a 1 out of 12 chance of getting your angler's outfit. In the end, I'm pretty sure that's I would prefer doing the 10-minute games, but yeah, that's just my personal opinion. But this was actually reworked in the way that you now have a better, I guess, incentive to do so, because a lot of people said, this takes 10 minutes to do a full game, and then 2 minutes to start, 1 minute to get your rewards, so that's really not that interesting. And the other one that I can potentially think of is the Ape Atoll Agility course. After the release of rooftop agility courses, the Ape Atoll, in my personal opinion, was one of the places that was, pretty barren in terms of people. But once you have the, little incentive for the monkey backpack to change if you do a certain amount of laps, that is going to be a nice incentive for people who are looking to get a nice cosmetic in their backs. That monkey is pretty cute, right? So those are 2 examples of reworking content. And now, what about buffing content? Now, I personally couldn't think of any examples at the top of my head, but actually buffing and also kind of reworking it a little bit was, first of all, we have the gauntlet. If you guys remember, at the beginning of the Song of the Elves release, the Hunlef, if that's even how it's pronounced, the Hunlef didn't have any animation when it comes to changing its attack style, and just recently, maybe a few months ago or even last year, I don't remember, I honestly don't do the gauntlet, so I don't know, is that now when it changes attack styles, it is going to do a little animation, and this is exactly what happened to Hydra. Now, I personally think it's buffing it because it is going to give players a better incentive, and from another Discord that I am at, a lot of people were like, oh, now the Hydra seems like it's going to be easier because you are not going to have to pay as much attention, I am going to give it a try. So that is straight up buffing content and giving people more incentive to, to go there because it's either easier, better XP per hour, better GP per hour, and so on. Those are 2 of the examples. If you guys have some others in the comments below, you can let me know. But what about nerfing content? I also couldn't think of any big nerfs in terms of either XP or GP per hour that I could potentially think of, because honestly, I'm a pretty sweaty player and I don't diversify too much, especially on my way to max, so I didn't know about many things that were nerfed, but I remember 2 specific examples. Now, when the Hallowed Sepulchre first came out, it was a ton of agility experience per hour, and I think this was one piece of content that was actually nerfed, and not only once. I think, don't quote me on this, you can, we can go look at the wiki, but I'm pretty sure that it was at least once nerfed because it was a ton of agility experience per hour, and Jagex was like, yeah, I think this is a little bit out of hand, let's go ahead and, nerf it a little bit. So I believe what was nerfed was the experience whenever you complete a floor. So I don't really know why that was. I mean, level 92 agility for the lowest floor in the Hallowed Sepulchre is already kind of a stretch, and I don't really think a lot of people are going to complain about it, because once you are 90 or 92 agility, you have 2 options. You have the RD Rooftop Agility, which is super chill, and is really AFK. All you need to do is click on the green boxes on Broomlight. But what about the Hallowed Sepulchre? This is something you cannot get your eyes off, or at least if you are a semi-average player like myself, and I can, do it normally, you cannot get your eyes off of it, and that is where the risk versus reward factor comes into play, especially in a place like this. Now, why was it nerfed if it was strictly a way more difficult piece of content and maybe the RD rooftop agility course wasn't maybe buffed, right? We need to look at something like if you have two pieces of content that are similar requirements or something, but one is super AFK and maybe like really chill, but it's not as much XP or GP per hour, but the other one requires so much effort, so much attention, that like why nerf it, right? You could have potentially buffed the RD agility course, but you decide to nerf the thing that just came out. Honestly, that doesn't make a lot of sense, and I would like to know your guys' opinion as to what you think other pieces of content, were nerfed in the past. Now, after all of this, after discussing how we could revive content, the difference of reviving content, reworking, buffing, and nerfing, it is time for me to talk quickly about why I personally think this will never happen in old school RuneScape. And before we get into that, I need to mention one very specific example for this one. So, if you guys play the game League of Legends, and if you don't, well, if you play, you know what I'm going to talk about, but if you don't, let me give you a quick explanation. League of Legends is a MOBA, which stands for Massive Online Battle Arena. Even if you don't play League of Legends, you have probably heard of it, and you kind of know how it works, right? Basically, League of Legends, all you have is competitively one map and around, I don't even know how many champions we are at. It's like 160 champions or so. And this game is so complicated in the fact that Riot, the company behind the game, is always trying to keep every single champion always viable at all types of play. If you are really bad at the game and if you only play casually, you can use one champion. If you are above average and if you are, where you would be in old school RuneScape, if you are maybe 2.2k total, you are above average, you can still play the champion. If you play at a professional level, maybe World Championship or regional championships, you can play the same champion and it could potentially still be viable at that point. Obviously, there's a ton of strengths and weaknesses to every single champion, but the thing about League of Legends is that you don't have a lot of content. Basically, your champions are the content, and you need to keep every single champion in line just so all of them are viable at some point in their lifetime, right? So in terms of old school RuneScape and in terms of like other MMORPGs, I don't think that's ever going to happen because the progression level is exactly what naturally kills more content, right? No one ever, I guess, asks Jagex to buff copper or tin ore because it's something you do at level 1. Once you are level 15 for iron ore, you are barely going to even touch the, the copper and tin rocks. And if you ask for a buff to these rocks, you are basically going to be made fun of, right? In MMORPGs, this is heavily different because that progression level is what's going to give you the, I guess, maybe not the instruction, but it's what's naturally going to kill content, and that is not necessarily a bad thing. So that is exactly what, I want to talk about. Originally, when I thought of this video, I was like, this is a pretty stupid idea, but now that I, have my ideas in front of me, and now that I said them, I think it's a really good comparison between like other types of games, right? In MMOs, because of the progression, there is some content that's bound to be dead, but in competitive games such as League of Legends, Counter-Strike, even Overwatch, where you have small pieces of content where the company is trying to make every single thing viable, and so everyone can play it, there's no natural disadvantages to each one, unless you are, of course, paired with a champion that's a counter to another one, then obviously that's going to be kind of a problem, but, there's going to be counters and, in, like, the positive and the negative. So that is exactly what, what I talked about, and, I actually like the outcome of this nice little comparison. So you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. That would be great for me to listen. And if you made it this far, thank you so much to all my channel members. And we have a new one in the newest addition to the membership tiers, whatever. We have the Dragon tier. Thank you guys so much for monetarily supporting this channel. And if you would like to do the same, you can go ahead and click the join button just so you guys can check out the benefits that you will receive for monetarily supporting me. It's not just, give me your money and that's it. I'm also going to be helping you out a whole ton in terms of RuneScape video making and other things. But other than that, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I hope you have an amazing weekend, and I hope to see you on Monday's video, where I'm going to have a very special announcement that I hope all of you enjoy to a certain extent. Alright, you guys know I'm terrible with outros, so let's go ahead and close it right here. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. Peace.